Hello everyone. Jesus, his Israel's Muslims was waiting for us, which I hope my sound come nice and clear. Hello everyone. Today we're gonna talk about the sign of Jonah, and we're gonna see Muslim understanding from the sign of Jonah and what it's actually the sign of Jonah. Now, because I wanna see the comments while watching the stream that the Dawah team had on Sunday. Thank you. I moved forward straight to the sign of Jonah. I hope you don't mind because previous was a pastor and they were talking about historicity, stuff like this. I'm not going into it because it's a very long video and I will need a lot of time. I'm just going to play even a bit from this stream, but we want to see how Muslims understand and they approach the sign of Jonah comparing to us. Now here is Raphael, as you can see. Raphael is a Christian who goes quite a lot in the sign of Jonah, in the stream of EF Dawah on Sundays. To be honest, I advise him not to go anymore because his knowledge is very limited. Mine is not that limited, but it's the barrier language, so I'm gonna try to make myself as clear as I can. And we're gonna play the clip for a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna see if this aligns at least with the Bible, because the Muslims always claim that they know what we believe and they do understand. So we want to see if this is correct, if they are truthful with us. Are you agree? Isa is Muslim. Should we go on? Start. Like. Okay. So let's go and see.
That's why the realm of the dead in the case of Jonah.
Raphael, what's your point, mate? What's the point you're making? Because I think you've missed the point that we were making with regards to that point. So what point are you making?
I'm making my point is that Jonah, the sign of Jonah, is not only that Jesus didn't die. The sign of Jonah. Let me finish. The sign of Jonah is that Jesus died and rose again. So that was the sign of Jonah.
Okay. And who was the sign for?
I'm going to pause it just for a little bit because I wanted to show you that the sign of Jonah, it's actually not just the fish part. So I'm going to go into the sign of Jonah. We're going to go into the book of Jonah, actually. We're going to go into the 3rd chapter after the fish, and we read Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. So this is after the ship, and he told him, "Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim to it the message I gave to you." Jonah obeyed the word of God, the word of the Lord, and went to Nineveh. Now Nineveh was a very large city. It takes 3 days to go through it. So to go through a city, it's a 3 days walk. I would say it's quite large. Jonah began by going a day's journey into the city, so he gets quite close to what we would call today like a city center, half of the day, so just a couple of hours away. So it would be quite a central area, proclaiming 40 more days and Nineveh will be thrown down, will be overthrown. The Nineveh believed in God. A fast was proclaimed for all of them, from the greatest to the least, to put on the sackcloth. Now we know in Bible prophecy, in the book of Psalms, that in prophecy 1 day equals 1 year. This is how the Lord measure the time in the Old Testament. So it ties into the prophecy of Jesus, telling to the Pharisees in year 30 that, do you see these stones? Truly I tell you, none would none would be not thrown down. Your house will be left desolate. Now I live, and you will not see me until you start to cry again. And by waiting 40 more years from the year 30, when that particular prophecy was proclaimed by Jesus, after 40 years, we know that the temple was destroyed. Now we're gonna go because the Muslim apologist makes a few more points, which I'd like to discuss. And we can see Christians, the majority, they do agree that the sign of Jonah, it's only yeah, it started the first part. They don't disagree about the first part, Pedro, but Raphael agree with them by saying only that bit represents sign of Jonah, which it's not true. It's about the second part as well, the prophecy, where the Nineveh people don't even discuss or argue who's your God, who sent you, what God, what kind. We can see that they repent straight away. They don't argue with Jonah for a single second. They just obey, but the Israelites did not. So the God judgment came upon them 40 years later from the prophecy. Nineveh was spared because they repent, but Israelites didn't. So their house was left desolate. Actually, was as we know, the Romans burned it down, and because was a lot of gold inside, due to the heat, the gold started to melt and went through the stones. So they actually removed every single stone to recover the gold and silver that was in the temples. That's the reason they threw down every single stone, and they actually swept the land really, really good. That's why they can tell certainly where the temple stood at the time. Second temple, of course. So we're gonna go and see a few more points. We're gonna go and see more points of the Dawah team. As you know, my channel, the videos that I'm making, you can share them, you can cut them. I don't mind. You can do whatever you want with them. I'm glad you hear things which are not really like mainstream. That was the whole purpose when I've made this channel to share with you people, because God didn't give me light just to bury it under the bed. So let's just go on for a little bit and see their arguments.
For everyone, people listening.
No, it wasn't. It was for the Pharisees because they're the ones who asked for the sign.
But if the Pharisee represent people, right? So it was for Israel.
No, the Pharisees didn't represent people. The Pharisees represented the enemies of Jesus.
Yes.
Now, Hamza said that the Pharisee did not represent people. Now, to understand Israel history, the Pharisees, the scholars, and the other party, they were like three political parties today, each one of them with their ideology, like Jews, Pharisees, and scholars. I think they're called the third one. And they have different views on the Torah and so on. So Hamza is saying that the Pharisees do not represent people, but they actually represent like a third of Jews or Israel population, if you like, in today's time, to get a grip on, to understand better what we're talking about. It's like we have these three political party who worship God, or at least they say they worship God, but they have a very different approach. So some believe a thing, others didn't. That's why they came with the idea about more messiahs and so on. Anyway, yeah, the Sadducees. Thank you. So they were representing a lot of people actually, and the knowledge that they were passing was their ideologies. So they were representing people. But what do you expect from Hamza? No offense, Muslims, but you need better apologists. So let's go on.
And that's why Jesus referred to them as an adulterous generation, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm saying he's talking to everyone. He's not talking to only two people.
No, the Pharisees.
Again, he's saying he's talking just with some, but the trouble was that Jesus spoke in public, so he would address these words to all people that were present there. But let's just move on, because this is a small thing. I want to get to more important stuff like.
Okay, Raphael, the Pharisees ask him for a sign.
Yeah.
And he says, I'll give you no sign. According to the Gospel of Mark, he'll give no sign. According to the Gospel of Matthew and Luke, he gives the sign of Jonah, right? So the sign is to prove to who, to what? Or prove what?
So once again, we see that he overlaps the encounters between Jesus and Pharisees, Sadducees, and so on, and overlaps, saying that at one particular, that this is the same encounter, and it's actually contradictory, because one says there is no sign, and yet others say there will be a sign. So he's trying somehow to overlap them, so in order to get the point, because this is the problem. They want to win arguments. They don't care about the truth. They don't care if this is different encounters. So Jesus, during his third life minister, he spoke many times with Pharisees, Sadducees, and so on. So we got what we got in the gospel are certain accounts. Now he is inferring that they are overlapped, and it's actually the same account, the same day, like in the same, and that the gospels are speaking contradictory, which it's not true anyway. So this is a big point, and this is third or fourth time when I hear this from Hamza. And I just want people to know that they use this kind of these tactics to win arguments, even if unfairly or out of ignorance. He is just there for the arguments, not truth, not nothing. So we'll see in a bit again, because this is very interesting, this hoax of historicity that they're doing.
Yeah.
So okay, let me answer this. Okay, so they say there's no. You say there's no sign.
No.
What kind of sign they were looking for? They were looking for.
Okay. I'll tell you what sign Jesus did. What was the sign Jesus said he would give? Sign of Jonah.
Sign of Jonah.
And you believe that is appearing after death, yes?
Yes.
But he didn't do that, did he?
That's why when you read which gospel you say where they say that.
Another flaw point, but Raphael is very weak. I'm sorry for him. I hope he's our brother, but he needs to read more. He's saying Jesus did not appear after death, which is again a weak argument. Now, he doesn't have to appear to certain people to say it's like, hey, do you see me? Yes, I'm here. You know, it's enough to appear somewhere. So they find out, like Lazarus, which I'm gonna get into as well, because it ties. It's very related to a sign, which is the main topic of this stream that I'm making today. And it is unprepared. Christians are acting in good faith, and they just don't understand some tricks, let's say, and they just fell for them every single time. Sorry for them. So let's just move just a little bit more and see how they keep approach this.
Those signs in the sense that what they expected as a sign, a miracle, physically in front of them. That's why he said there was no.
Jesus, according to the Gospel of Luke and Gospel of Matthew, said he would perform the sign of Jonah. Yeah. You've just confirmed the sign of Jonah is appearing after you've been killed. Yes?
Yeah.
But Jesus didn't appear to the Pharisees after that, did he?
But as I
Now see, he is inferring that Jesus somehow would have to testify to a certain people, but these certain people weren't looking for the sign of Jonah anyway. What they were looking for, which I want to get into it, it's a parable, and if you don't mind, I'll read it to you because it ties into this conversation. It's prior to the sign. So Jesus gets on their territory on how Pharisees saw the afterlife things and so on. So I'm going to read the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, and we read from Luke 16, verse 19 to 30. Very short thing. Now there was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At the gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angel carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man died also and was buried. In Hades, where he was tormented, he looked up and saw Abraham far away, with Lazarus by his side. So he called him, Father Abraham. You see, he's a Jew. He's saying, Father Abraham, have pity on me and send Lazarus to dip a tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I'm in agony in this fire. But Abraham replied, Son, see, he's seeing as a Jew, because they all think they were saved just because they were a Jew, as they think even today. Remember that in your lifetime you received a good thing, while Lazarus received the bad thing. But now he's comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides, all thing between us and you is a great chasm, and has been set in place. This is a teaching of the Pharisees after afterlife. That's why Jesus gets on their territory, on their knowledge, just to explain them how things really are. So then that those who want to go from here cannot, nor can be crossed over from there with us. And he answered, Then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, so they will not also come to the same place of torment. And Abram replied, If they had Moses and the prophet, let them listen to them. No, Father Abraham, he said, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent. So he said to them, if they don't listen to the Moses and prophets, then they will not be convinced, not even if someone rose from the dead. Now, what it ties in with the sign, because Jesus saw their heart and understood their teachings, and they thought that someone would risen from the dead, they would believe. So Jesus resurrected Lazarus not long after. You see, Jesus resurrected Lazarus after. Once they found out that Lazarus is brought from dead, it might not be the same Lazarus, but because it's related to the name, Jesus is trying to make a point. What they do, when they found out that Jesus raised up Lazarus, they understood who they are dealing with, and from day on they keep in it's in Gospel of John, I think chapter 11 or 12, that from that day they tried to kill Jesus and Lazarus. And the sign of the resurrection of Lazarus, we find it in Psalm 68. Of course, all psalms are so beautiful. I encourage study of Psalm, and we're gonna go to Psalm 60, 19 and 20. Praises to the Lord, to God our Savior, our Messiah, who daily bears our burdens. You see, we don't do nothing. He bears our burdens. Our God is a God who saves. From the sovereign alone comes the escape from death. They knew only God can resurrect people. They knew who they were dealing with. They didn't need the sign of Jonah right away. They knew exactly. But because we are kind of going in another realm of the Bible, I want to keep to these guys to expose them and show you their knowledge. So we're going to move on. Now we see Pharisees didn't actually want for a sign, but some did. So let's move on.
I said it is the sign was not given to all these Pharisees; it was given to everyone. That's why we disagree.
No, it wasn't. It was who asked for the sign?
It said this is talking about this generation.
Who asked for the sign?
Okay, the Pharisee asked the sign.
Pharisees asked for the sign, right?
But the signs.
Listen, the Pharisees asked for the sign. Jesus said, "They shall have no sign but the sign of Jonah." So according to your understanding of the sign of Jonah, Jesus should have appeared to those after a crucifixion. Yes?
And now he did appear to 500 people
I
at
said,
once.
Hamza, listen to me. I said
he appeared to 500 people at once, and they have testified about this. And Jesus, Isa is Muslim. Thank you for being with us so far. I even have a Skype ID if you want to call and correct me on some points. But you have to understand, even if I do this and I'll take your call, we're speaking from two different point of views. Just like Jesus was Pharisees, they had this mentality already made. They were made up their mind about God, and they wouldn't accept anything. And not only to the 500 people, he made multiple apparitions to the disciples and others as well for 40 days until he was raised up to heaven. Now, the thing is, as you can see, they made up their mind. So it doesn't matter what Bible say, if the sign of Jonah, it's only that or it's only that. They will have to do anything to look this like ridiculous and out of point, because they enjoy this kind of Christians who doesn't know. I've been myself a couple of times. Now they won't have me anymore, because of course we cannot come to any agreement, because some always tell me, oh, we know you believe, we know your doctrine, but actually they don't. They're very far away. So let's play a little more into the video because I want to get to Imran making some points as well.
Jesus is not talking. When Jesus is talking, he's not talking to one individual at a time. He's talking about everyone.
No, he's not. Okay? Why do you say that? Why do you say that? Why do you say he's talking about everyone?
His message is for everyone. His message.
Why is it? No, where does Jesus say he's talking to everyone? So everyone's an adulterous generation. Is that what you're saying?
But okay, Hamza, listen to me. Listen to me. Let me finish. The punishment given to Israel, right, is not because. Okay, let me finish. Let me finish. Unless you don't.
See, they won't allow you to finish a point they don't agree with. It doesn't matter if you're right, and this is probably the only correct point that Raphael is making. The minute you don't agree with them, they won't allow you to move on. It doesn't matter if it is what you believe and you're actually being given honest with them. This is what we believe. It doesn't matter if you believe it's true. It doesn't even matter if it's true or not, but this is what we believe. So stop telling me what I believe, since you do not know what I believe. You see, so when you try to explain them, they go, no. Look.
Don't want to have the truth. I'm trying to explain to you. The punishment coming to Israel, when Moses gave his commandment, he said, if you sin, you will be punished. Was he talking to one individual people or the people of Israel in general?
Oh, okay. We're talking about a specific moment in the life of Jesus when a specific people asked him a specific question.
Don't avoid
Yeah, that's what
my
we're talking
point.
about.
This is an important point, okay? Because the punishment given to Israel is for every people in Israel. It's not for one individual, but the people who sin in Israel are very few. There's not every people sin. So it's the same thing. The sign, so they ask for a sign, and Jesus is saying that the sign is going to give, they will see a sign, but it's not talking to one person, it's talking to Israel. Okay, so that's the parallel I'm trying to make to you.
He's responding to the Pharisees.
But I'm not saying every sin of the leaders of Israel is a sin for Israel. That's how they are all punished for the sins of the leaders of Israel. Okay,
What?
and you can read. We can go to the Deuteronomy, and you see the commandment was given by God.
Raphael, why are you jumping through hoops, mate?
You see, the minute you make a point, even if they don't believe something, if they don't agree, which they automatically imply it's not true. So the Bible doesn't work like a Quran, or maybe in a way. But when God said, let's say in Surah 9, kill the unbelievers, he didn't tell only to Muhammad, he told to all Muslims. It's the same with the Bible. When Jesus says, I don't know, go and share the gospel, it speaks with every single one of us. And this is a concept throughout maybe all religion books, because once you have a religion, a faith or something, everybody has to obey to God. So when we read into text, let's say Jesus asking the disciple, who does people believe I am? And one of them say, Jonah, Elijah, so on. But he asked Peter, who do you say I am? Who do you believe I am? It doesn't matter what the people say. Jesus is speaking directly to you. Who do you say I am? And Peter replies, you are the Son of the living God, the Messiah. And Jesus, blessed are you, for flesh has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. So we can see God revealed to Peter directly that Jesus was who he says he was. That's why we believe in Holy Spirit and this connection with God straight, not by Jibril, by that. God did send people with a specific message. Say this. As you read in the Old Testament, New Testament, you have, thus says the Lord your God. And then 2 points. And it comes the sentence. And the prophets reproduce God's word. That's the message, actually. Reproducing God's word as God says it. They try to, Mr. Big, they have a Historicity stream. They had 4 on crucifixion, 1 on Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and now they're looking, it's coming to John. But I've been in one of the streams, and they keep appealing to the documents from 4th, 5th century, which have survived. So they want to imply that the Gospels were written in 5th century. And I went and actually told them, yes, we know they are for 3rd, like 4th, 5th century documents that survived, but when was the original written? Because that's the point. Now we have all indications shows that the Gospels were written before 70 AD, because if you read through them, you can see some of the prophecy fulfilled, like Isaiah. Jesus is reading the scrolls, and it's saying, God has anointed me to proclaim the good news and the year of the Lord, and so on. And then after, in your hearing, these scriptures are fulfilled, and they all fulfilled. But there is one prophecy which they don't put it as a fulfilled, which is the destruction of the temple. Now, if the destruction of the temple would have happened by the time that the Gospels were written, they, or at least one of the four, would have wrote about it, because this was a big prophecy, and they would have said, and this was also fulfilled. But because the prophecy about the temple was not fulfilled, and none of the four Gospels accounts tell us that the temple was destroyed into any Gospel of the fourth, we can only assume that the temple was still standing at the time when the Gospels were written. They actually made a point about two documents, which are some documents that contain some quotes from Luke and Matthew, I guess, and they are widely agreed upon. The text was written in year 50. So anyway, I'm just gonna go back because I want to expose these guys, and if you need if you people like need some more teaching about this kind of stuff, like I said, the channel is for you, not for me. So if you need one point, like the other brother said about Tobias Singer, to make and expose them, I'll make a video even if it's for one person, because this is why we Christians are here. We're here to serve. We don't need serving. So I want to move on if you would like, and I want to get to Imran. I was live, I saw the stream live, but like I said, I'm working. I'm just a regular guy, probably like some of you watching this stream, or maybe afterwards. And I don't have that much time, but the time I have free and available, I want to dedicate to bring awareness about this kind of guys.
We're talking about the Bible. We need to use the history, the way the Bible has been always interpreted. Okay, a punishment given to Israel is for all Israel, even if few people sin in Israel, and the few people who sin in Israel are the leaders.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Did the 5,000 people who got fed bread and fish, did they need a sign?
What is it? I don't get where you jump from one point to the what you want. What point you want to make?
All right, the point I'm making is this, because the Pharisees asked for this sign after the feeding of the 5,000. So those 5,000 people were already convinced. It was the Pharisees who needed convincing, and they.
And by the way, just like a bracket, to know that the 5,000 people conspire among themselves that in the day of Passover to anoint him as a king of Israel, because they recognize he's greater than Moses. What a regular means? I have a job. I do overtime. I work for all my money. I pay for all this program that I'm using to do these clips. I have 2 daughters. I have a beautiful wife, and visit friends. Just regular life like anybody else. I'm not standing out in the crowd. If you pass me on the street, you won't even know I'm there. Like, it's regular. This is what I mean by regular. So let's move on.
They were the ones who asked for a sign, and Jesus said, "No sign shall be given." According to Mark, that's it.
I disagree. The 5,000 who saw sign, but what is telling you they were convinced?
Well, the 5,000.
When Jesus made this parable about I am the flesh and you eat my flesh and so on, did they believe that? No, because they were not all convinced. They all left him.
We're talking about a specific event that apparently occurred in history where Jesus said certain things, and you believe those certain things meant a certain thing, and then certain things weren't carried out. Now you're saying it's irrelevant that it was the Pharisees who asked the question. You're saying all of Israel asked the question.
Yeah, but you are saying something which is not true.
talking nonsense.
We're not going to agree on that, Hamza, because your understanding is wrong. Okay.
My understanding. Which part of my understanding is wrong?
That's what you say. You say the 5,000 were convinced. They were not convinced. Jesus healed people. Not many of them were not convinced. So what you're saying is not
How
factual.
they not convinced?
Because when Jesus started, okay, Hamza, when Jesus started talking about, I am the true bread of life.
When Jesus fed the 5,000 people with 7 loaves and 3 fish, or whatever it may be, why do you not believe they were convinced?
I'm trying to explain. If you let me finish. So when he made his parable about, I am the true bread. Okay, whoever eat my flesh will live. What did I say? What is he talking about? Jesus was showing that these people were only were material people. Okay, they were not spiritual people. So yes, they were convinced that he did something as a physical miracle, but spiritually they were not, because they all left him after that. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that being convinced like this means nothing. We're not going to agree on that, Hamza, because your understanding is wrong.
What are you talking about? Where does it say that in the New Testament? What you just said to me, that these 5,000 weren't convinced by what he just did.
Do you remember the passage when Jesus said, "I am the true bread who came down from heaven"? Do you remember that passage? You want me to read that for you?
Listen to me. We're talking about this event that occurred when he fed 5,000 people, and you just made the claim, even though he fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 4 fish, or whatever it may be, the people weren't convinced he was who he claimed to be.
I'm saying you are the one who claimed that people were convinced, right? I'm saying that the fact that he gave them, he made a miracle of the bread doesn't mean that
just
they were
make a
convinced.
very brief point?
The
reason why.
I just wanted to just go back to your, because the point that you made, which was interesting, was you believe that Jonah was dead in the belly of the whale.
Yes.
And to be honest, it's the first time I've heard anybody say that. I have to be very honest with you. I've never heard a Christian say that to me before. And what you said was that this was because the word shoal is used. And your interesting discussion with you and Nazim about this. So whilst you were talking to Hamza, I was just reading through Jonah, and I think this is...
Now, this is what I wanted to get, where Imran goes to the book of Jonah, and I want you to see how they infer things are not there, and it's not that they're not there. Normally, they can't be there logically. I'm gonna explain you in a way. I'm just gonna let him speak and see for yourselves.
I think this is the NIV, I'm not sure, the translation. So from BibleStudyTools.com website. So if you look, I'm just reading through to see, because I'd never seen this interpretation that you were giving, and I think because it would seem like a reasonable thing to say that that somebody who's swallowed by a whale would die, and that's the assumption that people would make. And for most people, the miracle is that Jonah survived this thing that would normally kill him. That was being the miracle, apart from also being thrown into the stormy sea, which would have killed you, but you survived this thing as well. Then you're swallowed by the whale, that should have killed you, but you survived that as well. Then you spend 3 days and nights in the belly of this whale, that which should have killed you, but you survived that as well. Now, when I was reading through, let me just find the verse. So this is after the prayer happened. So let me go to it very quickly. I'm going to just try and find it up. I think this is in chapter 2.
Chapter 2, verse 1. So chapter 2, verse 1.
It's chapter 2, verse 2 and 7, I think he quotes. So I'm going to go as well into Jonah 2. And he's going to read 1 and 2. But he's still going to read accurate, by the way, so I'll let him do it.
Sure.
Chapter 2, verse 2.
So in chapter 2, I'll start from 1 actually. So chapter 2, verse 1. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God, and he said, "In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me from deep within the realm of the dead. I called for help, and you listened to my cry." So you're saying that this is from the realm of the dead.
Yes.
Now, and that's what you're saying. So you're saying literally this means hell, or whatever Sheol might refer to.
Yeah.
Now, if you go down further, if you read from verse 7, and it says, "When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you to your holy temple." So this demonstrates to you that when the prayer was being made by Jonah, he was not dead.
No, but it starts by
Yeah, that's a
saying
very good point.
He says, when my life was ebbing away, obviously when your life is ebbing away, you're not dead at that point. I remembered you, and my prayer rose to you to your holy temple. So this for me, when I'm reading this, and you can give me your explanation of why you think this is not the case.
Okay, let's see. Answer this.
So let me just
1 second, Raphael.
sorry, go
Let
on.
him finish. Let him finish, please.
So the point that I'm making is, it's clear from reading the very chapter that I've just read here that when Jonah was praying in the belly of the whale, his life was ebbing away, but he was not dead. And he was praying because he said, I remembered you when my life was ebbing away, and my prayer rose to you to your holy temple. So this is demonstrative of the fact that being swallowed by the whale didn't kill him.
He was still alive.
He was still alive.
Yeah.
So I think
when
that
he
your
uses the word
interpretation
Sheol, it's in a
doesn't really fit with the
metaphorical
words
sense.
of Jonah.
Yeah.
So I want to point out, I'm reading from the NET here, and on page 1715 and page 1717, it provides some commentary on these two passages. Could I just read it briefly? So what Dr. Imran said is not only correct, and what Nazim agreed with, it's not only correct.
I want to pause it because I don't like other people's commentary. I let them speak. Imran, I let Imran make all his point. Now he reads from verse 7, which is correct. He read correct. Verse 7. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. Now, in just this one verse, it's two major problems, which I'm going to explain in a way in a minute. Remember Jesus on the cross in the agony of death when the life was ebbing away? What did he said? Father, to you I commit my spirit. And what happens next? He breathed his last. So he died right after the prayer. Now, if any of you want to tell me that a person would survive in a sea, in a whale's belly, mouth, whatever the place would have been, whereas we know the whales have to come out every now and then because they don't have air, and the water circles through them. I think for a man would be impossible because a man needs only 5 minutes without oxygen to die. So to say he lived for 3 days in a fish belly, mouth, whatever, without breathing, and say he was still alive, I think it's beyond comprehension, or at least to me it is. The other thing that is the problem with this, it says, and my prayer rose to you. Where to you? To your holy temple. Now, did God need to be in the temple in Jerusalem to hear his prayer? And somehow, you see, actually Jonah writes the book after all these things happens. It's not he's like having a notebook with him in the whale or whatever kind of fish it would have been, and just keep writing. He wrote the book towards the end of his life. So, as all prophets did actually. So, to say he, just because when at the time when he wrote, he didn't specifically, I was dead. It doesn't have to say specifically this. just by saying I was in the realm of the dead. It says in verse 2, I called you from the realm. See, distant rest. I called the Lord and he answered me from the deep in the realm of the dead. So how deep was he in the realm of the dead? How deep do you have to be dead to go in the deep of the realm? So just to say he wasn't alive, I think it's not reasonable to even try to infer this vision upon a text. Now, we weren't there to see, but we have to be reasonable in the assumptions if we're gonna make any. And by Jesus saying, I'll give you the sign of Jonah, and then dies and resurrects, it actually strengthens the idea that he died. If you go in the verse after 7, where is it? It says, wait, because he jumped to, you hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas. So he's in the middle of the sea, and the currents swelled upon me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, I have vanished from your sight, yet I looked again towards your holy temple. Now I really doubt from the sea you can see the temple in Jerusalem as he was traveling towards Tarsus. The engaged for waters threatened me, the deep surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. So if you have some seaweeds wrapped your head, it's very strange to say you could have breathed in that environment. I think to say he was alive, the root of the mountains as they sank down, the earth beneath buried me forever. But you, Lord my God, you brought my life up from the pit. So we can see his life was up from the pit. Usually the pit, I don't want to say Jonah went to hell, but definitely he disobeyed God. God brings him back up, and Jonah continues his mission, but he still doesn't go in good faith, by the way. If you want me, I can read from chapter 4. He actually wishes for God to destroy the Ninevites because they were in the fish lies, I see there. Exactly. See, even you as a Muslim agree. You can't survive in that environment for 3 days and 3 nights. It's literally impossible. And yet, they make this point. We don't know what kind of unconsciousness state he was in, but definitely he was unconscious, because otherwise he would have wrote more maybe about the experience. But the only experience he tells us it's that it's the prayer while life is ebbing away from him, and then we see God restore his life back. So I stopped going on this kind of live streams because I've been a couple of times, but it's because you are not allowed to speak. They shut you up, and I agree to disagree. As I told them, we come from different knowledge point views. We see God of the Bible not as Allah. They see Allah as not the God of the Bible. They only cling to the prophets, but with no books and so on. I don't want to go too much in it now, because the point was to show people the sign of Jonah and how these guys, how wrong they are about it, because this is the point. So to be more specific, if you go and do a historicity on something, you have to be well aware of let's say, the arguments that the other might bring up if you want to, let's say, disprove a point. So you have to think to all the situation. Obviously, they're not. The limited knowledge that they possess doesn't allow them to see both sides. They only see one side. Now, I understand that Islam does not allow Muslims to agree with us on very many issues and topics and points, but they should allow us at least to tell them what we actually believe, because they think they know what we believe, but they don't. So because they don't know what we believe, they want to imply their belief on us. So what they believe, they put it on us and they say we believe that, when we actually don't. Now, as you people really prepared, do not go in these streams because I think they are very unfair. First. Second, they allow you to speak for like 2 minutes, and then they have like all stream long just to mock you. And they always speak or reply after you're gone. So you are not allowed to say anything. And if you want me, we can go towards the end after this guy leaves and see their closing statements. Do you want to do that and see what happens after this guy leaves? Oh, let's go here, because they are almost done.
I wanna point out, right? I just wanna put a question out there. God forbid, our friend Raphael is on his deathbed, and the doctor says, Raphael, I can give you a medication that can make you live. Raphael turns to the doctor and says, I'm already dead, doctor. Doctor turns to us, Raphael, I can feel your heartbeat. My heart is already ebbing away. I'm dead already. Don't save me. Does he think about what he says? He's dead, even though he says he's not dead. He's trying to, what I think is, and I'm not going to beat him up because he's gone. He's trying to read his Christian theology into the text, but the text does not lend credence to his Christian theology. So he has to find a way to create this false dichotomy between spiritual death and bodily death. And he's projecting a future idea from what Christians believe in into the past upon Jonah himself. If Jonah himself did not use these ideas or these words or these terms to describe his quote-unquote death, then we can't change that for him, right?
And the problem with this interpretation is, like, if you go to the book of Hebrews says it's been ordained for all men once to die and then the resurrection. So if Jonah did die and then was resurrected from the dead, then where is Jonah now? He should still be amongst us. Mm-hmm. But obviously no Jew, Christian or Muslim belief.
Actually, the book of Hebrew, this expose him. I don't know why he brought that up, because I would ask Nazim, see, they only speak about theology when Christians are not around. So did Elijah died? And when? Did Enoch died? And when? Right? Exactly. When Peter is asking Jesus, when Jesus is actually telling Peter, when you get old, you will be taken to places you don't want to go. You'll be tied up, and was referring to his kind of death. When he points Yes, exactly, but he didn't die, you see? Yet, at least. So he asked about John, when this one is going to die. And Jesus said, you follow me, don't worry about him. Nathan is a very funny, how should I break him? Yeah, then gave not his power, was a promise he made that if Elisha would see him going up, he would kind of way pray to God to give him power, because the power that Elijah, let's say, had, but it wasn't his to give, was actually God's power, not him. That's this. As men, we don't have any power. We're only um, we're only making prayers, and if they pleases God, God will respond in a positive way. Meaning, in Christianity, Jesus is a Muslim. Are you a Muslim? Yes, no? Yes. So, yeah, in Christianity, we believe when we pray to God, God for us have, normally it's two, but we can split them in three answers. Yes, no, and not yet. Because sometimes it's not the right time for some actions, even if they are right to do. It's just not the right time. So I would be glad if you want me, I'll open Skype and you can call me if you wanna have a friendly discussion. But I'm not gonna be really nice because you want to have, okay. Here, let's open. The Skype ID is the same like the channel, like this. Right. And it has the same icon as the channel, the cross, and First Colossian verse. So we see this kind of ideology. It's all over Islam, in Speaker Corner, in stuff like this. They always put on us something we don't actually believe and we don't agree with. So we'll always, God bless you too, 3G. So we see they always do this, and I actually went into their stream and say and tell the Raphael not to come anymore, not because he has not been good, but because his knowledge is very limited, as you can see, and I've showed you. He's only representing third of the sign of Jonah. So I showed you the second part. I showed you how Lazarus parable and Lazarus resurrection also ties into through the Psalm 68. And I don't know what to say. Tomorrow they're gonna have a second stream about this, and I'm gonna probably do again. I've actually lost 2 of their streams, but I wanna recover, and I'll do after tomorrow. See, this guy here, Nathan, he's a sort of hybrid. He wants to, this guy here, he wants to have his own religion, like half Christianity with half Islam. So I had a chat, actually, if you believe it, for 5 hours on Skype with him. 5 hours I stood and had quite a nice conversation, regardless to the things he's writing now. And we came to the agreement that he either has to be a prophet or rely on other prophets for a revelation. So then he was like, oh yes, you're right. Was the only thing he told me I am right. So now he's more a Muslim than a Christian. He said he was a Christian and then he is back a Muslim. Yeah, we did. And he actually wants to make a hybrid cult, let's call it, between Christianity and Islam. And the funny bit is he wants what all wants, all cult leaders: women and fame, money, wealth, stuff like this. Now, I don't blame him, because maybe all people would like to have a nice lifestyle. It's how you earn it, it's the problem. So if you earn it by deceiving other people, I don't think it would be good for you in the judgment day. And to the other Islam Muslim, you can call me if you like. It would be nice to have a Muslim on air for the first time and have a nice conversation. I told you I won't be nice because I have to be truthful first and then polite second, not polite as other Christians, because that would be deceivable. So we probably won't agree on very many questions, on very many things, but that should not stand in a way, in a way to have a nice conversation. I mean, nice in a way of tone. So if you want to call, as you can see, I have my Skype open, and if you like, you can call me. I don't mind. So 3G, you came quite towards the end, because I've always finished my arguments. I was just exposing the historicity hoaxes, I call it, because they are not there for historicity whatsoever. So we see, I showed you how they want to win. No, it's okay. How they want to win arguments, not truth. So they are not there for the truth to represent it in a way. They have their own truth according to their belief system, and they try to convince us, say, because majority that go there are to defend Christianity, so they're our brother in Christ, and they want to put on us stuff we don't believe. The minute we disagree with them, they will just mute us and tell us what we believe. This is the reason if any of the people that follow my channel will go to confront them, you know what to expect. So they're not there for truth, they're not there for conversions, they are there to make some mockery of the Bible, thinking that by winning arguments with weak people, which are not, let's say, well versed in the Bible, and somehow after they finish, you see what happens. Look, Nathan, those are not jokes. Those are rude jokes. That's why I never reply to them, because I don't delete them either, because I want to see Christian how Muslims behave, and you are a good example of that.
Believes that. And as I said, traditionally, Jews, Muslims, and Christians have interpreted this story as Jonah surviving death, surviving, from the world's belly. It's only because of this problem which has been highlighted to certain apologists. They bring up this point about Jonah did actually die and then was resurrected, but that apology doesn't work, unfortunately.
Well, what I find so funny is you guys are going about Jonah and the whale. And I'm like, but the Pharisees asked for a sign.
I've explained you already that the Pharisees were only a political party representing some people. So when Jesus addressed them, it actually addressed their ideology, which is well represented in Luke 16 in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man that dies. So Jesus entered their realm of understanding just to make this point, and then resurrect Lazarus. And as a reply to the miracle, to the sign that they were looking for, as if a dead man would come, we would believe. In reply, in John Gospel, we see that second day they decided to kill both. So we can see what they were after in those time, and we can see what they're after today. So I'll just leave them a little bit more to see their conclusion, because now after Raphael left, it's no one to stand, so they'll say anything. And it's very funny to watch their chat as well, to see how people are actually rejoicing, like they're rejoicing with pray for the prophet, not to the prophet, or the other way around. Doesn't even matter. They were just clapping because they've got they thought they've got the argument. They refuted them when actually they buried themselves. Look.
I was going to get over that interpretation. It was just a word. I've never heard that before from anyone.
Someone did point out that James White used a similar argument against Zakir Hussain.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Right. So I think what has happened here is he's come in with that apologetic in mind.
Yeah.
But not being able to articulate that from the text itself.
When I think Gilchrist made the same.
John
and I've
Gilchrist?
heard this, and I've heard this same response from other apologists as well. I'm at Speaker's Corner, and
it's a really bad argument. But I do want to point out he was trying to explain to a medical doctor what that is. Really, Raphael, come on. He's telling the doctor, you don't understand what that is. Dr. Eman is in the business of saving lives, spiritual, because he's here, and body.
Alhamdulillah. You know, I remember I worked for about 8 months on a cancer ward once when I was a young trained doctor. And it was really, death is one of those profound times when you're with an individual. And one of the most profound experiences for me actually was I was with a husband and wife who the husband had cancer metastatic all over the place. He was dying slowly, and the wife had never experienced this. And I had to really she didn't know what to do. She kept getting up when he was getting distressed. So I had to sit her down, hold his hand, and when this person's about to, because that time is coming, they're suffering, that their breath changes. And one of the things this man did to me very straight, he looked over my.
You know what is funny? He just agreed with the Bible when he said when his life was ebbing away. Now, you see, he agrees that people know when they're dying, when their life are ebbing away, which death it's inevitable, but yet they believe Jonah was alive. Imagine. They're very funny at some point.
My shoulder. So this is the dying man. His wife is sitting on one hand holding his hand. I'm sitting on the other side holding the hand to show her how to care for her dying husband. And he sort of looked over my shoulder and said, "Tell him I'm not ready." Wallahi, those words, and the hairs on the back of my head, just in my neck, just stood up like this, and I thought, please let there be somebody there, like the nurse or someone else. And I turned, and there was nobody there, subhanallah. And you know, when you see things like that, you definitely know that at that moment, your eyes are opened. You know, may Allah guide us all, inshallah, to the right.
Ameen. Subhanallah.
And it's also very funny, they even stole Amin for us. Is that in Arab as well? They should have said, I think it's mashallah or something, but actually Amin, it's translated as so be it. I mean, like God's will be done. This is Amin at the end of the prayer. And they've copied even brothers in humanity, for example, the expression, but that's against Islam as well, and many other stuff. They keep copying from Christians. They copy everything they can, and it's embarrassing because they can't be original, because if they go to the founders of Islam, it's going to be bad for them. So in these streams they never address Quran, they never address any of their scholars. They address some sort of historicity, and if you remember, if some of you saw their streams in the crucifixion historicity, they just throw away Josephus, and then in the Gospel of Matthew, I think in the case of the slaughter of innocents, who took place on 28 December, for those, if you want to know, they say because Josephus didn't write about it, it didn't happen. So all of a sudden, Josephus became ultimate authority after three streams behind. They've said, I think he's wrong, and then all of a sudden he becomes their ultimate authority. It's very funny.
And you know, this point you brought up, Dr. Imran, from chapter 2 of the book of Jonah, verse 7. I wasn't actually aware of this, so thank you for highlighting this. I knew that the counter response is to basically say that the word Sheol is also used by David in Psalms in a metaphorical.
We're gonna go back to 2:7 here, and as you see, when his life was ebbing away, when he knows his death is approaching, he remembered, Lord, I remember you, Lord, and my prayers rose to you, to your holy temple. But I don't think from the fish he could see the temple in Jerusalem. So obviously he's referring to to the body of Jesus. But of course, this is implied into the text according to our belief. It's not written like, you know. So we can see how they're speaking from a point of view like they're all knowing about Christianity, when in fact they know nothing. They just read a couple of verses, usually nowadays, because the Bible is like an app, and you can just search for keywords. They look for whatever they want to look, and verses will come up, and they will just play with the verses, having no idea what the rest of the text is saying, or if it's prophetic or not, or they have no idea. They just use it. They'll just use it anyway, and this is the reason they need to be exposed, because I live in UK. I don't want these guys to just think that they're getting away with everything, and I'll keep doing this and expose them until they finish this kind of activity, which I don't think they will very anytime soon. But it's good for us. They give us material, and we'll keep exposing them, and we'll keep show their flaws and their way of thinking. Now, since our brother who was here, Jesus is Isa, did want to call. I didn't receive any message. and the stream is quite finished. I don't know for how long we've been on air, but I don't want to be very long either, so I think we're gonna stop here, and we'll do the next video for part 2, the Gospel of Luke, which will be streamed tomorrow night. So we'll watch tomorrow night. Oh, you do not use Skype. Well, can you just make one? It's easy. You can just use your email address. Because I could speak like this and you can just reply in a text. I don't mind. It's just it's gonna take too long and the video is gonna be 4 or 5 hours long. You're using Facebook. Phew. Yeah, I should have a Facebook account with the name of the channel. I only have my my private one, which to be honest, I don't want to go public because I don't want the people to look at my face and think something. I want people to follow God. My image, how I look, it's not important. The important part for us as Christian, it's the truth to prevail and to not be deceived. We don't use any deception. We can use terms and stuff you do not agree with or people may not understand. We understand that. We like Paul said, we preach Jesus Christ, which is fullness for the Gentiles. We agree. You can say we're full. You can say we're stupid. You can say whatever you like about us, but yet we will speak what we believe. If you want to search, see if we're right at least, then you go deeper and study. But just to come by typing some key words and have no idea what Christianity is really about, to be honest, Muslims have no idea what Judaism is about, which is like a sister religion to them, and they still have no idea what the Judaism is. I think it's just according to me, it's kind of funny in a way, and I don't want to say stupid, but why would you want to do like a historicity on crucifixion when you know nothing about it? You know nothing about eyewitnesses. You know nothing about pretty much anything. All you know is that in Quran says that they have not crucified him. Now, you can argue about all this stuff, but before I go, I want to give you a historic thing about Lazarus, because I brought it up. Lazarus, after Jesus was crucified, he was persecuted badly. The Pharisees were looking for to kill him, as written in the Bible, and he flee in Cyprus today, Lanarka, to be more specific, and became the first bishop of Cyprus, anointed by Paul himself, by the apostle. And he died in Lanark, and his grave was discovered in 9th century with the inscription. Well, Muslim scholars are the only ones that are not in alignment with history. That's what it is. They don't agree with anything. So his tomb was discovered in the 9th century with the inscription Lazarus, the beloved friend of Christ. Oh yeah. By the way, iPhone 3G, I know you are like a moderator. If you want, could you teach me how to, when I do live stream, to send the notification that you're going to be live in, I don't know, half an hour or so? I don't know how to do that. I always put live go, whatever. But it would be nice to have more viewers. Maybe they'll share the link. And to be honest, because you are here, and I know you are a moderator also for. So, for example, when you go live stream, there is a notification that you can send in advance with, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours before you start your live with a topic name. I just can't manage to do that, and people are keep writing me and saying, we don't know when you go live. So when I create the stream, in some cases, you know, you receive a notification. Well, oh yeah, I did is Sheikh Imran Hussein, who said Jesus was crucified. It was very funny. It is a good. Yeah, the problem is when I create this channel. To be honest with you, I thought if one person would would learn something from me new that they don't know, and that their faith would be in strength, and they'll grow just even a little bit. I would be pleased, and my goal would be achieved. I I never thought that my channel or my teaching would be like mainstream, because they are not. As you can see, I speak about things that people don't really speak about, or history sites that you very rarely hear. But the point was for Christians to grow and to gain some knowledge. And as long as they, even one person, if gains knowledge, my goal is achieved. I'm not here to turn the world around, because that's that can only be achieved by God's power and will. And we know God comes to people at a certain point in life where you either have to say you don't want Him or to accept Him. And the minute you don't accept Him, it happens the blaspheming against the Holy Ghost, because He is the Holy Ghost. It's the power of God that convert people. Actually, it's not us, it's not what we say, it's not whatever I do does not matter. But what it matters, it to me, is that in the judgment day, you cannot say I did not hear and I did not know. Oh, unless I get more subscribers, so that's the problem. Well, thank you for that, iPhone 3G. To be honest, doesn't really matter. I only have 107 subscribers, I guess, or something like this. And they will watch it after I finish if they're not live. And as long as they learn anything, I'm happy. And if God will bless the channel and it will grow, even better, because what I want personally, it's to bring more people to the truth. And if they accept it, it's their decision. If they don't, it's their decision again. Even these 5 guys, we keep exposing them. If they want to keep this way, just they'll keep it. There is, you know, God doesn't break hands to the thieves. He doesn't cut feet to killers. He doesn't do anything. He will wait for the judgment day, when he will apply what you earned. Is what you earned. That's the wages of the sin. Is what you earned. Either good or bad, it's your decision. It's based on your decision. It's based on your own will. So in the judgment day, nobody cannot say to God, I did not know and I did not hear. And this is the main reason I've made this channel. And through through my studies, although my English it's not at the highest, but I can still make my point. I've studied the Bible since I was a child, and I gain a lot of knowledge, which I want to share with others. And through this, if people will get saved, you know, it's Lord's work. If people don't want to get saved, it's people's choice, because they can choose from themselves. And with this, I think I'll leave it here. Jesus is Isa is Muslim. Thank you for watching all the way through. This is there are some Muslims. Do you want me to share a story with you before I go? My encounter with a Muslim. Yes? Okay. I'll be for my 5 more minutes. I work in a very big warehouse in UK, and I always came across of a Muslim, about, I don't know, 20, maybe 25 years old, young, and we keep chatting for a few days. After a week or so, he asked me, "Are you Christian?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "You?" He said, "I'm a Muslim." And I was like, okay, well, you know what we believe about Muslims. We know what you believe about us as well. You know, we agree to disagree and stuff like that. And then he said something very strange about Jesus. It's an Amazon warehouse. So I stopped him and I told him, is it not that you have Isa in the Quran taking a clay, turning into a living bird, and speaking from cradle and so on? So he said, yes, yes, yes. So I said to him, look, to be honest, it came on the spot. If you ask me, I would not have said that. I wouldn't think to this one in 1,000 years, but I think Jesus used me in this way. So I said to him, look, aren't you afraid that if Jesus can give life, he can also take it? Like, he take it back. I'll be honest with you, maybe you don't believe me, Jesus, Isa. He didn't spoke to me for a week at all, not even salute me as usual. After roughly a week, every single time when he saw me at work, every single time, if I saw him 10 times a night, 10 times, he would bow down to me. Like in form of respect, not praying or bow down all the way to the ground, just to show reverence, respect. Then I knew he's on the right path somehow. I just had that feeling that he's coming to the right path, and I knew I have to leave him alone. I haven't spoke to him ever after, because once our job as Christian is to make Jesus known, and we have to leave people to speak to Jesus, not us putting us between God and man, as the Pharisees did, or Imams does today, or some preachers do this. All we have to do is to lead people to Christ and leave people with Christ. He will know what to do with them. He always does. He always will know what to do with them. And I felt so good. I felt so good that not that I put doubt in him that Islam is false or anything, I didn't even mention Islam being false or non-false or true or this is wrong, this is correct, this is not correct. Nothing, nothing, nothing. This was my whole argument, say. And like I said, after a week, when he bowed down, even if he's still a Muslim, I know he searched for Jesus, and I'm sure he found something. But I didn't want to interfere more. If he would have had more questions, he would have probably just come and asked me. And since he didn't ask me, I didn't want to push him, like force him into it, because this is not our job as a Christian. We're not this. We just have to take people to Christ and let them deal with God. It's the best thing to do. We will not lose any. Yeah, of course, alien universe green. So I'll leave you here. I'll thank you for watching. If you want, like I always say at the beginning and at the end usually, if you like my stuff, share it, cut it to pieces. It's all free, all available. Do whatever with you want with it. Show it to others. I don't know. Just as long as we bring more awareness to people, we're doing God's work, and this is all we have to do. So I wish you all a blessed night, because that for me it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I wish you all well, and I wish God will bless your lives and He will reveal Himself to you. This is my deepest desire, and it could be your biggest achievement to get to know God personally. God bless you all. Like I said, have a nice evening. If you need a certain topic that you want me or others to bring, yeah, iPhone 3G, God bless him too, although yes, God bless all. If you need a certain topic where you feel weak, you don't have to be ashamed. You either can contact me through Skype, you've seen it, either just write a comment on any of my videos, because I don't have many subscribers, I don't get many comments, so I read them all just now. And just write me there, I don't know, you need to cover this, or you need to cover a certain topic which you might not feel prepared. And even if it's for one single person, I'll still do the video or maybe a live stream if we find enough material about it. So don't feel bad to ask. It's for your own good. God bless you. God bless all. Have a nice evening. And Jesus is Lord.